Sun Pharma agrees to acquire rival Ranbaxy in an all-stock deal worth $4 billion. The combined entity will be India's largest pharma company and the world's fifth biggest generic drug maker. Markets end the day flat. Sensex loses 16 points to end at 22,343. Nifty gains just 1%. Sun Pharma gains over 2%. Cement stocks also gain. And India begins voting in the world's biggest election. The 9th-phase ballot begins today and will conclude on 12th May. Vote will be counted on 16th May. Hello and welcome to Business Wrap. I am Sidhant, Sibal, and let's begin the biggest story from the deal street. That's the Sun Pharma and Ranbaxy deal. Sun Pharma has agreed to acquire rival Ranbaxy in an all-stock deal worth $4 billion. The combined entity will be India's largest pharma company and the world's fifth biggest generic drug maker. It comes at a time when Ranbaxy is under the scrutiny of the US regulators, who have imposed import bans on drug manufactured at some of its facilities. The agreement still needs shareholder and regulatory approvals. Earlier this year, the Food and Drug Administration of the US, or US FDA, banned Ranbaxy from producing and distributing drugs for the US market from its Tonsa facility in Punjab, the company's fourth facility to face such ban.
The companies are the arch rivals at the domestic level. One is Ranbaxy, the India's #1 drug maker by sales, and the other is Sun Pharma, another major drug maker. But now both the companies have made a major decision which has become the talk of the market on the day, which had a significant impact on the pharma sector too. The announcement said that Sun Pharma would acquire the Ranbaxy in a deal worth $3.2 billion, creating the world's fifth largest generic drug maker. Ranbaxy is currently held by Japanese Daiichi Sankyo Cooperative Limited with a stake of 68%. After the merger, Daiichi Sankyo will become the second largest shareholder in Sun Pharma. Sun Pharma will acquire 100% stake of Ranbaxy in an all-stock deal under which Ranbaxy shareholders will receive 0.8 share of Sun Pharma for every share they hold in Ranbaxy, which has come under regulatory fire from the US Food and Drug Administration. On the other side, Daiichi Sankyo said in a statement that it will hold about a 9% stake in Sun Pharmaceutical after the deal. This has come as a huge sigh of relief in the times when Ranbaxy has been facing serious issues with exports to the US. But on the whole, it is Daiichi Sankyo Limited which is pleased with this deal according to the experts. On the other side, Daiichi Sankyo said the US Attorney's Office in New Jersey had issued an administrative subpoena to Ranbaxy seeking information related to the company's Tonsa plant in India. Ranbaxy is cooperating with the information request. Business Desk, DD News.
Well, we are now joined by the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of Sun Pharma, Uday Baldota. So, welcome to Doordarshan News. Congratulations first because of the big deal which came this morning. The news came. So, tell me, what are the nitty-gritties of the deal?
So, I think the way we've structured this deal, it's a merger between Ranbaxy and Sun Pharma, and this is being done through a scheme of arrangement which will need to be approved by the regulatory authorities as well as by the High Court. Once that is done, and once we get the antitrust clearances from the different competition authorities of different countries, it is then that we will be able to close the deal. So that's the way we've structured the deal.
So by what time do you think you'll be able to close the deal and get all the regulatory approvals from India and other countries as you mentioned?
Our current working assumption is that we should be able to complete that by December 2014.
So markets you're looking forward for, because Ranbaxy is well placed in emerging markets. So where do you think your reach will be after this big deal?
So currently for us, when we look at Sun Pharma alone, about 60% of revenues come from the US and 25% come from India. And then there are a few other markets which contribute the balance. When we look at Ranbaxy, I think the revenue mix is quite different. And that's the benefit that, if the businesses are complementary, then to that extent you get a much wider platform to perform on. So, after the combination, pro forma, the numbers would look like that India will be about probably still about 25% or slightly less than 25%. But the US business proportion will come down from 60, and the emerging market proportion will build up. So I think out of a total, we said that pro forma 2013, the revenue would have been about 4.2 billion. And if I was to break out, India would be about $1 billion, US would be about 2 billion, and emerging markets and all other businesses will be about $1 billion. So that's the broad breakup of the 4 billion pro forma revenue of the combined entity.
So, Ranbaxy has been dealing lots of issues when it comes to the US FDA. What will be your strategy when you'll deal with all the US FDA hurdles which which Ranbaxy has faced in past few months?
I think for Ranbaxy, the path of remediation is laid out in the consent decree. So they need to do whatever is required to do that. Once the company combines, we will add our effort and resources to helping Ranbaxy overcome that difficulty. And to an extent, I would say we have past experiences where we've come out successfully. So we also had a consent decree some time back, but we've resolved the consent decree 2 years back. So I think bringing all that experience and benefit to Ranbaxy so that they become compliant as quickly as possible will be the effort.
So one final question: how will this deal help the Indian consumer at the end of the day?
When you say Indian consumers, let me try and understand, what do you mean?
So Indian consumer, the Indian market in a sense, the Indian pharma market, and of course the common man also. I mean, how do you think it will change? The deal will change the whole pharma sector in India.
I think with the combination that we are talking about, we will become by far the largest pharma company in India. So as per market research agencies, we will have a market share of almost between 9 and 9.5%. And in terms of our share of prescriptions from important doctors, I think that will also, currently we have number one rank in the number of prescriptions that we get from different doctor classes, and that is about 7 such classes are there. With the combination, that 7 will go to 13. So we are almost doubling the number of classes of doctors where we have the number one market share. So all of these things will strengthen our performance in the country. And what we've seen is that we would be able to successfully operate on this much wider platform compared to what we've had till now.
Thanks so much. So that was the Chief Financial Officer of Sun Pharma speaking exclusively to Doordarshan News, and the big deal, that's the big deal, the pharma deal, which was the top business headline of the day and also trending elsewhere also. But now moving on to the markets ended flat on the first day of the week. Volatility ruled the roost as key benchmark indices eased, a lion's part of intraday losses in late trade. The market breadth indicating the overall health of the market turned positive from negative in late trade. Cement stocks gained on hopes of consolidation in the sector after the world's two largest cement makers, Francis Lafarge and Holcim of Switzerland, agreed the terms of a merger creating the world's biggest cement company with more than $40 billion in sales. Ultra-Tech Cement scaled a record high. Sensex closed 16 points down at 22,343 levels, while NSE Nifty closed up just a percent at 6,695. Gainers on the chart were Sun Pharma, SSLT, Mahindra & Mahindra, Tata Steel and SBI, which were up by between 3 to 1%. Losers on the chart were BHEL, Cipla, ICICI Bank, Dr. Reddy's Lab and Maruti Suzuki, which were down by between 3 to 1%. The stock markets will remain closed tomorrow, that's 8th of April 2014, on account of Ram Navami. On to global market action. Asian stocks edged lower on Monday in the aftermath of the most disappointing US jobs report. Key benchmark indices in Hong Kong, Singapore and Japan were down by between 0.59% to 1.69%. Indonesia, Jakarta Composite rose 1.3%. South Korea's Kospi rose 0.08%. Markets in mainland China and Thailand were closed for a holiday. On to European stock markets. European markets edged lower on Monday as technology shares tumbled following a sell-off in America. Key benchmark indices in UK, France and Germany were off by between 0.46% to 1.07%. Well, world stocks slipped from last week's 6-year high on Monday on concerns about technology shares, while speculations that the European Central Bank, that's the central bank in Europe, will ease policy further, pushing down European bond yields. The Nasdaq suffered its biggest decline since February on Friday as high-flying and high-growth shares, mostly in the tech and biotech sectors, extended their recent sell-off, with sentiment spilling into Asia. The pullback came after the Dow and the S&P 500 indices hit their record high after March US jobs data, smoothing concerns about the health of the economic recovery there and eased fears of an early interest rate hike.
Hiring is on the up, but tech and biotech continue to get beat down. That tug of war played out in the market with the tech slice dominating, leaving markets down and the Nasdaq tumbling 2.6%. For the week, blue chips tagged on 0.6% and the Nasdaq was down roughly by 0.7%. Looking at the big losers in techland, TripAdvisor, Netflix, Amazon, Facebook and Tesla topped the list. One stock not part of that group was Grubhub. The biggest US online food delivery provider soared in its New York Stock Exchange debut. The new offering priced above the expected range. Last year, the company processed 1.3 billion food orders.
And then you look at what is in front of us, and you say, wow, $70 billion in annual spend, and of that, 97% is being placed through the paper menus and offline analogs. That's ridiculous. We've seen this story before, the offline to online transition, and that's exactly what we're doing. And we are the clear leader in this space by an order of magnitude, and we're going to continue innovating to help facilitate that transition.
That growth potential reasoning with investors, the stock surged almost 31% in its debut. IPOs are a hot ticket. In the first quarter, more than $47 billion has been raised globally, a startling 98% surge from quarter one. Here in the US, there were 76 debuts as of Friday, double compared to the same time a year ago, raising $14 billion compared to nearly $9 billion during the same period. And there's more to come. Weibo, China's version of Twitter, failing to sell 20 million shares to the list on the Nasdaq at a price between 17 and 19 per share. Aside from IPOs, job growth is at the heart of the economy, and that heart is beating a little faster. Payrolls have been grown in March, with numbers for January and February revised higher. Unemployment held steady at 6.7% as more Americans went back on hunt for a job. Economists say the numbers show the economy is getting over the weather effect, but not enough to get the Federal Reserve to hike interest rates anytime soon. And speaking of central banks, speculation of the European Central Bank is working on a new stimulus sent stock prices higher across Europe. Business Bureau, DT News.
Well, and now on to some dance of democracy. India has kicked off world's biggest election. The 9-phase ballot begins on Monday and concludes on 12th May. Votes will be counted on 16th May. More than 800 million Indians are eligible to vote in the polls. Electronic voting machines will be used and will for the first time contain a none of the above button, and that's the Nota button, an option for voters who do not want to cast their ballot for any of the candidates. On the first day of the voting, polling took place in 6 constituencies in 2 states in Northeast, 5 in Assam and 1 in Tripura.
Elections in the world's biggest democracy had begun. Indians have started voting in the gigantic election process which has been grabbing the attention from all corners of the planet. More than 800 million people have registered themselves to vote over the next 5 weeks, which accounts for 100 million more than that of last elections in 2009.
I'm feeling great as I'm voting for the first time. I came early to beat the rush at the polling booth, but as you can see, there are already quite a few people gathered here.
The election is spread out in 9 stages. On the first day of voting, polling is taking place in 6 constituencies across 2 states in the northeast, the famous tea-growing state Assam and Tripura. People are expecting a confident and a stable leadership in the government after the elections in this region.
We have come to cast our vote as we hope that a good leader is selected who forms a stable government and can provide solutions to the problems which the country is facing.
Voters in India's northeastern state of Assam came out in large numbers on Monday to cast their vote. Though initially the voters turned to the booth in lesser number, as the day progressed, the number of voters outside the polling stations began swelling in both the states. Many opinion polls and other surveys predicted a tough competition between the political parties in this region and also across the country. The elections to choose members to the 543-seat Lok Sabha will then spread to the northern Himalayan plateaus, western deserts and tropical south before ending in the densely populated northern plains, with results expected to be announced on May 16th. Business Desk, DD News.
Well, we here at DD News request all our voters to go out and vote in this election. Well, on to our other big story. A Swiss cement firm Holcim is to buy French rival Lafarge to create the world's biggest cement maker with a combined sales of 32 billion euros. Under the terms of the deal, Lafarge shareholders will receive one Holcim share for each Lafarge share they own. The two firms said that they would sell some assets to ease competition concerns. More such news in our business wrap.
Coal India Limited has received only one application from MMTC in response to the tender floated at the beginning of this year. In fact, Coal India Limited received a single expression of interest from MMTC for its plan to import the fuel to meet supply agreements with power plants. The world's largest coal miner had to invite fresh applications after an earlier tender elicited no response. Coal India Limited had first invited bids for coal imports in November 2013. Indian e-commerce market might see something interesting and sensational deals in the near future. Online fashion retailer Myntra's co-founder and CEO Mukesh Bansal is open to getting a strategic investor on board. According to the analysts, this move, which could trigger a deal with Flipkart as early as this month, would make it the biggest consolidation move in the Indian e-commerce market. Reliance Jio Infocom and Reliance Communications have signed a deal, which is the third infrastructure sharing agreement signed between the two. Mukesh Ambani owned Reliance Jio Infocom signed a deal with the Reliance Communications to lease the Reliance Communications optic fiber infrastructure within cities. Under this agreement, Reliance Jio will utilize RCom's optic fiber network to accelerate the rollout of its 4G services throughout the country. The World Bank has trimmed its growth forecast slightly for China, citing a bumpy start to the year. It now expects the Chinese economy to grow by 7.6% in 2014, down from its earlier projection of 7.7%. A slew of disappointing figures has triggered concerns of a slowdown in the world's second largest economy. Swiss cement firm Holcim is to buy French rival Lafarge to create the world's biggest cement maker with combined sales of 32 billion euros. Under the terms of the deal, Lafarge shareholders will receive one Holcim share for each Lafarge share they own. The two firms said that they would sell some assets to ease competition concerns.
Well, Singapore Airlines announced that it will fly the world's largest civilian aircraft to India from 30th of May. Singapore Airlines announced that it will fly Airbus A380 to 2 Indian cities. According to the statement released by the airlines, the A380 Super Jumbo will operate daily to both Mumbai and New Delhi with effect from 30th May 2014, taking over from 2 daily flights that currently serve each city using smaller Boeing 777s. Another daily flight will continue to be operated with B777s. In total, 14 flights will serve each city per week. Singapore has always been keen to operate the Airbus A380 to India, and the airline said that it is glad that a services agreement between Singapore and India now allows them to do so. Well, on to some election-related news. Finally, BJP has come out with its much-delayed poll manifesto for the Lok Sabha polls. contentious issues like Ram Temple in Ayodhya, Article 370, giving special status to Jammu and Kashmir, and Uniform Civil Code have been included in the BJP's manifesto. Giving high priority to revival of growth and job creation, the party has promised to contain inflation, pursue tax reforms, and promote foreign investments. It has committed that it would continue to oppose FDI in multi-brand retail while welcoming foreign investment. The manifesto accused the Congress-led UPA government of unleashing tax terrorism and uncertainty and endangering 10 years of jobless growth. Meanwhile, BJP Prime Ministerial candidate Narendra Modi has called his party's manifesto as a manifesto of development, saying that good governance and continued growth will be BJP's main agenda.
हमारे लिए ये मैनिफेस्टो न ही एक चुनावी रिचुअल है और न ही यह कागजी दस्तावेज है। यह हमारी दिशा है, यह हमारा लक्ष्य है, यह हमारी प्रतिबद्धता है। दो मूल बातों को लेकर के हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, एक गुड गवर्नेंस, दूसरा डेवलपमेंट।
Well, now on to news from Asia. It may be smartphone king, but Samsung's Q1 guidance numbers in coming week will reveal the stark challenges that lies ahead. Elsewhere, both in Japan and Indonesia, they will decide on their monetary policy this week.
Samsung's revenue growth is expected to slow to its weakest level since mid-2011, just 2.8%. That underscores the challenge Samsung will face in finding a new star product as the smartphone market looks both saturated and mature. Indonesia is one of the best performing emerging markets on this planet this year, with stocks recovering from concerns of a bloated current account and falling rupiah currency in 2013. The central bank announces its key policy rates for April, with the key benchmark policy rate sitting at 7.5%. No change expected this month, according to a poll of analysts. Rates have been steady in Indonesia since the start of 2014, but the outlook on rates could become more divided later this year after presidential elections in Southeast Asia's largest nation. Japan's central bank also seen leaving policy unchanged after its monthly meeting. The BOJ also expected to maintain its upbeat view on the economy despite a chorus of worries about the recent sales tax hike from the corporate sector. Business Desk, DD News.
Well, now on to some health-related news. If proper care is not taken, even small insects like mosquitoes, flies, ticks and bugs can pose serious health hazards. And today, on the occasion of the World Health Day, WHO highlights the serious and increasing threat of vector-borne diseases with the slogan "Small bite, big threat."
There's something people often take for granted. They do not realize the importance of it, and even if they do, they may still disregard it. Good health is what we are talking about here in this segment today when we celebrate World Health Day. Over half the world's population is at risk from diseases such as malaria, dengue, yellow fever and others carried by mosquitoes, flies, ticks, water snails and other vectors. Every year, over 1 billion people are infected and over 1 million die from vector-borne diseases. This year on World Health Day, WHO is highlighting the serious and increasing threat of vector-borne diseases with the slogan "Small bite, big threat." Vector-borne diseases are caused by pathogens that are transmitted to humans through mosquitoes, ticks or sandflies carrying the pathogen. They are difficult to prevent because of several challenges facing the control of vectors and the transmissibility of the pathogens. Eradication of mosquitoes plays the most significant role in preventing these diseases. Let us take a look at some of the ways to prevent such diseases. Keeping surroundings clean, changing water at the base of flower pots every 3 days, draining out standing water from all broken bottles and vessels outside and water coolers. There are some natural ways also to keep the mosquitoes at bay. Mixing neem oil and coconut oil in equal proportions to make a mosquito repellent and apply it on your body. Light camphor in a room and close all the doors and windows.
Leave it this way for about 15 to 20 minutes and go back to a mosquito-free environment. Crush up a few pods of garlic, boil it in water and use the water to spray around the room you want to keep mosquito-free. Last but not the least, planting shrubs of tulsi, mint, marigold, trees of lemon and neem are all extremely effective in preventing the breeding of mosquitoes. In a major step forward, the government and WHO recently conducted a joint monitoring mission on vector-borne diseases to review progress, identify challenges, and provide state-of-the-art advice on strategic issues. They also reviewed ways to improve the integration of vector-borne diseases with the general health system in the country. Although significant progress is being made in combating vector-borne diseases, still they continue to spread at an alarming rate. And that is why this year and thereafter we should pledge that irrespective of what government does for eradicating such diseases, we will also bring about the behavioral change in ourselves to control, eliminate and eradicate the spread of such deadly diseases. Niharika Sharma's report, DD News.
Well, as they say, health is wealth. Time for a recap of the main headlines. Sun Pharma agrees to acquire rival Ranbaxy in an all-stock deal worth $4 billion. The combined entity will be India's largest pharma company and the world's fifth biggest generic drug maker. Markets end the day flat. Sensex loses 16 points to end at 22,343. Nifty gains just 1%. Sun Pharma gains over 2%. Cement stocks also gain. And India begins voting in the world's biggest election. The 9th-phase ballot begins today and will conclude on 12th May. Votes will be counted on 16th May. Well, that's all in this edition of Business Wrap. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.